Oh, almost forgot. A Los Angeles judge has decided that a major landlord that was planning on evicting a lot of tenants to do necessary rehab to his apartment building cannot do so, and that the tenants who are rent controlled can stay indefinitely, in the most outrageous decision I have heard in a long time. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. All right, so I have an interesting story for you today, and it's an update to a story I did a little while ago about this very large apartment complex in Los Angeles where basically the landlord was told by the city that you absolutely must make these large repairs, and the large repair being a sprinkler system, because otherwise we're not going to allow you to continue to operate. So the landlord said, okay, we're going to make these large repairs, but we cannot do that unless we remove these tenants from the building. These repairs cannot be done while these tenants are living there. So they did what they call an Ellis Act eviction, which allows a landlord in this Los Angeles area where rent control exists to remove the tenants on the basis of they're going out of the rental business, okay? Because they said it was going to take them 3 to 5 years to be able to get all of the repairs and the rehabs done to these buildings that were necessary, right? Well, a judge has decided that, well, you going out of business for 5 years, that's not going out of business forever, so therefore you cannot use this, what they call Ellis Act eviction, in order to do it. So what this really is saying is that, one, these rent control policies are too strict. If you're saying that, hey, I can't do a major gut rehab of an apartment building because these people might lose their homes, I mean, you're basically tearing the place completely apart. And these people expect to stay somehow. They're not going to have any running water because all the other empty units that are being repaired are, they're just not going to have water, okay? I mean, you're not going to have power. Or the true thing is, it stops the renovation 100%. Completely stops the renovation. But the problem being that the landlords, they agreed with the city, in order to continue operating as a business, they agreed to install this sprinkler system, okay? And so they're put in a position where the judge says they can't install it, and the city says they have to install it. So what are they going to do? Okay, what are they going to do? This is a crazy story. I'm not 100% in agreement with any of it because, in my mind, this wouldn't have been an issue in the first place, okay? Because rent control wouldn't have been there. These people would have been able to do any, updates and improvements to the property without having to consult with the city or talk to judges or wait years on end or whatever, right? They would have just been able to get in there, get those tenants out of the units, get the other units repaired, and put new tenants up in there. It would have been very simple anywhere else except for in Los Angeles, okay? But these tenants feel they have the right to stay in this property forever, even if the place is a fire hazard, even if the place is falling apart around them, even if they could burn alive in their units. They don't want to give up that cheap rent ever. That's how dumb these people are. And I have to call them dumb because, the reason that they are requiring the sprinklers, the reason the city's requiring the sprinklers is because somebody burned alive inside one of the units inside this building, okay? Pretty obvious to me that the place is not safe. Yet these people want to stay and want to stop the repair work that the landlord is trying to get done. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think. Now, obviously, my suggestion would be don't even waste your time investing in a place like Los Angeles, right? But these property owners, these landlords have a fortune to be made if they're able to get rid of these tenants, because a lot of them are rent control. And if they can put market rate tenants in every single unit in there, that could substantially increase the value of this building, even if they have to spend hundreds of millions of dollars doing all the rehab, doing all the repairs, doing all the updates, losing 3 years of rent while they do all this stuff, okay? They could make a ton of money. Like, I've always thought to myself that, you know, when I read the story about the billionaire real estate developers, right, who came out of California, they just hit a gold mine because of the amount of appreciation that these people can get and the property values that they have, right? So, yeah, that's the reason why they're doing this, because they know they can make so much money. But is it worth it? That's the real question. Could you have become a billionaire by, you know, maybe doing something a lot easier in Dallas or, you know, something in Phoenix or Atlanta? You know, I mean, yes, I think that you could have. I think that, you know, this is, man, it's a long game. It's a long game. It involves a huge sum of money, and I just don't think that it's worth it to me, you know, like I never would have done it. So anyway, let me get into this story. I want to tell you about, you know, this ruling, and it you know, they basically, the landlord's losing in this case. This article is coming from LAist.com, and it says, Judge rules against landlord in highly anticipated LA mass eviction case. Let's get into it. In a highly anticipated decision that could have broad implications for renters across California, a Superior Court judge has ruled against a landlord seeking to carry out one of the largest mass evictions in Los Angeles history. The judge's determination means more than 100 tenants still living at Barrington Plaza, a 712-unit West LA high-rise apartment complex, will get to stay. Some long-term tenants pay far below market rates due to city's rent stabilization ordinance and fear they would not be able to find affordable housing anywhere in the region if forced to leave. Now, one of my biggest gripes with this is this landlord was actually complying with all parts of the local and state laws, which means that this landlord is being forced to pay tens of thousands of dollars in relocation expenses to each one of these tenants. So these tenants, they weren't just leaving and getting kicked out onto the curb with nothing in their hand. Some of them were getting 5- and 6-figure payouts for relocation expenses. But to them, that wasn't enough. They were saving so much money in terms of how much rent they were paying by staying in this building that the 5- and 6-figure relocation expense wasn't good enough for them. It wasn't enough. So yeah, these people are just greedy, and that's what I've been saying for a long time. You don't understand just how entitled these rent control tenants can be. They are just awful. And we have they said there's about 100 tenants left in a 712 unit building. So 612 units of these buildings, right, are sitting empty right now. And the landlord cannot do the major repair work necessary due to these 100 tenants. So basically, these people are causing there to be a shortage of housing because they are forcing 612 units to remain empty so that they can continue to live there. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh, well, why doesn't the landlord just open these units back up and then rent them out? Can't, because the city said that you have to install that sprinkler system into the building. And they can't install the sprinkler system when these 100 tenants are still living in there. So these people are causing, you know, just a substantial loss. Now, I don't know how big the pockets are of this developer or this landlord who owns this building. They must be humongous, okay? They must have billions just sitting in a pile for, you know, sitting, you know, because they were planning on keeping the building empty for 3 to 5 years. They were, okay? That's a long time to not be getting paid any rent. And with the hopes of this building be worth a lot more when they're finished. So I am just curious, you know, like how much money we're talking about the owner of this building has, because I certainly can't even fathom that much. This is no doubt one of the most important tenants' rights legal victories in state history, said Larry Gross, executive director of the Coalition for Economic Survival, in an email on the ruling. This victory shows when tenants unite and organize, they can win. And so I don't quite understand, like, okay, you have a building that's in disrepair, right? And it's falling apart, and you need to do major renovations to the building to bring it back up to standards, right? And they're telling you, well, no, you can't evict tenants if you need to do that. So I can't remove the tenants in order to do major repairs. The walls are caving in, the foundation is falling apart, the place is a fire. In this case, the place is a fire hazard, a huge fire hazard, right? And it needs substantial amount of work in order to bring it up to standards. But the judge is telling them that no, you cannot do that work because then these people would lose their homes. Okay, I just don't get it. I don't get it because this would make it so that it would be almost impossible to remove a tenant to do major repairs ever. Wouldn't that mean that the property that is left, I mean, I'm not just talking about this property. I mean, all properties in LA that need major renovation work, you wouldn't be able to do it because the tenants could just say, hey, I don't want to leave and look at this ruling here against the Barrington Plaza, so I don't have to leave if I don't want to. You know, even if you want to do repair work, they could just say that because, you know, the judge ruled in their favor, right? Isn't that what there's... It's a dumb ruling. It's a dumb ruling. I hope that there's some sort of appeal because it doesn't make a lot of sense, okay? It just doesn't. You know, we need to be able to renovate our buildings. This is a dumb story, okay? I'm sitting here talking about rent control. Here's the main thing, right? Don't think that the exceptions that these cities have to the rent control law or to the eviction protections, don't think that they're going to apply to you. Right when you think they're going to apply to you, they're going to change the rules of the game in order to screw you over. That's part of the reason why I say don't invest in this sort of place, even if you know the rules, you're from the area, you think everything is going to go according to plan. They change the rules in the game in the middle of the game just so that you lose and they win. This is insanity. Anyway, I'm going to put a link to this article in the description. And let me know what you think of this whole situation. Would you buy a property in California under rent control? I certainly would not.